All right, my friends, how are you today? Happy full moon to you all. We got this Leo full moon. It is Thursday, the 28th of January, 2021. We've got the sun at 9 degrees of Aquarius, going to conjunct with Jupiter at 9 degrees of Aquarius today. And we've got the moon moving into the sign of Leo. All right, we're going to create this full moon at 9 degrees of Leo. Okay, so the moon moving into Leo is our emotional need to be fearless, our emotional need to be the leader, our emotional need. Right, we gotta understand here. The sun is in its fall right now. The sun in Aquarius is in its fall. The sun rules the sign of Leo. Okay, so the sun's at its weakest point in the zodiac. It's so focused on the community. It's focused on the bigger picture. It's not focused on what our individual need is. Okay, so here we have the moon over here in the saying, take leadership, take responsibility. You know, it's just like the Capricorn and Leo energy have that, you know, sense of leadership and pride, you know, pride of the lion. Okay, so we have this point of illumination is coming from Aquarius. Okay, we're about the group, we're about the community, we're about the big vision, we're about seeing, you know, the bigger picture. Right, the Aquarius energy is the conductor, right? The Leo energy is the star of the show. Now, every director needs the star, and every star needs a director. Okay, every star, otherwise they wouldn't have anything to perform. They wouldn't have, you know, so it's just like this symbiotic relationship that the community needs every single part, every kind of person to play their role, right? So at 9 degrees of Leo, let me show you the chart here. 9 degrees of Leo, the moon in this space is suggesting, let me come back here for a second. This is like the long night of the soul, okay? And this is like an energy of, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it through this. Not entirely, hold on a second. It's that when we do make it through that night or that day that we didn't think we were going to make it through, right? The hardest day of our lives, the hardest energy on the soul possible, this hard energy. And then all of a sudden, we did it. You know, we made it through it. We made it through the most difficult time of our lives. We made it through the most difficult day. Behold, the sun is risen again. There's air in our lungs. We open our eyes in the morning. We wake up. You know what I mean? It's just like it's coming from its understanding that the most difficult, challenging time we've experienced, we made it through it. And it's just like, you know, have you ever seen Fight Club? You know, when Ed Norton's character pulls a gun, I think it's Edward Norton, or maybe it's, I don't even know which one of them at this point. I think maybe it's Brad Pitt's character pulls a gun on the convenience store guy, you know. And he's just, you know, in stating, he's just like, tomorrow when this guy wakes, you know, when he goes home, he's going to kiss his wife. It's going to be the most passionate kiss ever. When he wakes up and eats eggs, they're going to be the best tasting eggs this guy's ever eaten because his life was just threatened. Now, his life wasn't really threatened. They weren't really going to, you know, shoot him or anything, but it was to prove that point and to give that individual something that once they didn't have. It was just a normal day, just a mundane, normal, everyday. And all of a sudden, you know, it's just like, oh my God, I'm so thankful for this life, for this body, for this air, for these eyes, these hands, these feet, these legs that allow me to move, you know. And it's just like, this is getting exciting, getting excited in appreciation of our lives. Soul, right? Soul. SOL, this is about our physical body. This isn't about, you know, the spirit like breath, the internalness. This is, you know, being thankful for the everything, you know, the physical body as well as the spirit. Okay. Now, on the other side of the coin, and I'll keep this up for a minute so you know, if you know your chart, you can see where everything's lining up for you. On the other side, so this is, you know, that sweetness after such sour, okay? And us being able to look at our lives and saying we can make it through it. And this is our emotional moon that never leaves us, right? The moon doesn't just float away. It doesn't decide one day to not show up, do its job. Same with the sun. It never stops shining. It never dims its light, okay? And over here, and this is interesting because it's going to conjunct Jupiter. You know, so this is 3:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the moon is going to be full wherever you are in the world, however that's going to line up for you. Now, a couple hours later, there we go. Oops. You know, 7, 8 o'clock. There we go. 8 o'clock, 8 to 9 o'clock. You know, I mean, that whole time the sun conjunct Jupiter, okay? Either way, at 9 degrees of Aquarius, this is an interesting energy, okay? This is like the, okay, you know, like Burt Reynolds, okay? I work in the film industry, so I don't know. I know, you know, these names just come easy to my mind. So we're just going to go with them as an example. Burt Reynolds walked onto a set one day, and it was like with a bunch of young people. And they're like, oh, who are you? And he just kind of chuckled because Burt Reynolds was like a huge superstar, you know, at one point. Huge star, bit larger than life, you know, someone who will never be forgotten. The John Wayne, that kind of, you know what I mean? And he chuckled as this young, you know, up and coming actress asked, so who are you? And he says, I'm Bert, and I used to do this all the time when I was your age, you know, and kind of laughed at it. And it's like recognizing in himself, he is no longer the star that he once was. Okay, that's what the 9 degrees of Aquarius energy is all about. This is about the ebb and flow of knowing that things rise and things fall. And who are we without the reputation, right? Do we still maintain our status quo? Do we still maintain ourselves? We still have Venus up there conjunct with Pluto in Capricorn, right? Reputation, status quo, things like that. Do we maintain having an appreciation for ourselves, no matter what, if we've fallen out of the public's eye, or sometimes it's even why? Why do we want to be in that public eye? Why do we choose or want to be, you know, famous, or why do we want to have all of, you know, accommodations of things? You know, it's like, again, this ebb and flow of understanding. Sometimes there's a plethora, sometimes there's, you know, it's fast or famine. Sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you, you know. So this is saying, like, look, we all have our time. You know, we have our time when we're a child and we can play in recess. We have our time where we're the young adult and starting our career. Then, you know, it's just like things fall. You know, and interestingly, I'll share this with you. Wherever Saturn is in your chart, okay, if you know your chart personally, this is a really, really interesting way when we look at Saturn, at the sailing ship. Okay, now transiting Saturn, here I have this set to 0 degrees. Okay, so if you were in Aries, okay, what we're looking at here is the 4th and 10th house. Okay, when we see Saturn moving beyond the 4th house up to the 10th, this is a sign that our ship is sailing outward, okay, that we're about to begin a journey. And then when Saturn gets here to the midheaven, this is the maximum height, the completion of our journey. And then our ship begins to sail back home. Okay, so where is Saturn on your chart where this is transiting here in Aquarius, right? Is your ship going outward? Is your ship coming back home? You know, and it's, you know, it's time to come back to the shore, time to come back and restock, refuel, rethink the next journey, the next lesson, right? And if your ship's coming out here, it means you got big things to do, and there's no going back to shore. So you better have everything ready, you know, for your journey, right? So if you look at your chart, it's kind of a cool way to look at where you're, you know, that's like 15 years, 15 years each one, you know. So either way, so where are we in this? You know, understanding the ebb and flows, understanding that things rise, you know, coming back here again, you know, this is like Juno was huge, or AOL Instant Messenger was a thing, you know, and then it's just like, all right, then that got taken over. Then Yahoo was huge. Then Yahoo got taken over by Google, and Google, you know, it's just like all of these things, they're going to have its point of rise and its point of descent, where it's going to fall. Okay, so whatever we're creating, it's okay. It's okay that things have this ebb and flow. Okay, and further, like aside from those like points, this is also energy about us thinking in the big picture, thinking outside the box, looking, you know, toward the future here of humanity. Aquarius is the humanitarian sign, right? It's the human being. It's the water bearer. Okay. So when we're talking about, you know, humanitarian and this energy that we just had, it's just like, don't forget about being emotional. Don't forget about being compassionate. Don't forget about being playful. This is the Leo energy, right? When the sun was in, or when the moon was in, you know, emotional Cancer. It's like, be compassionate to one another, be caring with one another as much as we can. Here it's just like, don't forget who you are. Don't forget your strength. Don't forget your power. Don't forget that you can get up. Don't forget that you can change your life. Don't forget that you have the ability to say yes or to no. And that's where we're headed here, as the moon is going to move into Virgo, in a couple of days. It's just like, we can say yes to this. We can say yes to the celery and no to the donut if we feel like it. I had 2 donuts today. I'm terrible. But, but it's like saying we have a choice in this, and don't forget our power in all of this, And then further, as far as like being humanitarian, the world is, the world is what provides for us. Okay. And it's like biting the hand that feeds. Now, this is, it's like, it's in a sense, if we see the forest as of something of value for being the forest, and not looking at it with the approach of seeing the forest only of value if we can chop the trees down and profit off of them. Okay. So, again, that humanitarian aspect of life is just like, well, what makes sense for us as people? Not just what makes sense for us for business, not just what makes sense for us is ease ease in the community. Now, while speaking of this, interestingly enough, and it's so cold here in Detroit. I've been outside all day at work. It's so cold. My friends in Australia, I'm like, boy, I wish it was summer right now. And, speaking with my friend Alice, much love to you, Alice, folks, my friends here in the United States, if you don't know what's going on, we had that North Dakota pipeline put in, right? And we had the Native Americans protesting this pipeline. The exact same thing is happening in Australia right now. I'm going to totally slaughter the name if I even try to talk about it. Hold on, let me just see. Let me pull it up here. But basically, it's indigenous, land that is sacred land. All these ceremonies happen there. I'm going to pull it up for you 1 second, and I'm going to put a link in this as well. If you're curious to check it out, tomorrow is like the last day of this thing. Tomorrow is literally the last day. If enough money isn't raised, then they're going to tear down all the trees and basically build a highway across Australia in this certain spot that's known as sacred land for thousands and thousands of years. And it's like, that breaks my heart. And this is the exact same thing. It's just like, oh, well, this is better for the community. This is better for business. It's like, well, what's best for the community is this planet. We need this planet more than anything. Do we need a highway? Yeah, sure. We need to be able to connect with one another until we have drones just pick us up and drop us off wherever. Who knows when that's coming? My Jetson car. Then we won't have to worry about this. If we only had Jetson cars, save. Here it is. Let me see if you can, I'll pull this up for you over here. Boom. There we go. I'll put a link to this too. Thankfully, there's a little extension. This is by January 25th. Thankfully, there's an extension. If you're able to help out with something like this, if this reaches to your soul, I mean, it's a pretty loud thing. Again, I'll leave the I'll leave it in the comments section below or the description box. But either way, it's like coming back to being a human being and realizing what we need and what we don't need, and seeing the value for the forest, not just as pencils, number 2 pencils and paper and whatever else we can manufacture out of that, but valuing nature for what it is, and us having the strength, the power, and the leadership abilities, and remembering each person is a vote. That's the thing with this. It's really funny, and this ties into the astrology. I'm not just throwing this out there randomly. It's if they bring up $30,000, they won't do it. They won't cut the trees down. If they can raise 30 grand, and there's 16,000 right now, all over 16,000. So it's like wild to me. It's just like, oh, well, there's value to these trees. If you pay us for it, we won't cut them down. This mentality has to shift. You know what I mean? And this is also a part of this energy to the south node going on. I'm going to bring this back just a little bit. If we look right here, right right at this full moon, we have a septile to the north node. We have to look at everything. We have to look and say what is right and what is wrong. We have to let go of the ideas, again, the philosophies of group scenario, group setting. You know, these guys can kind of tie in together. The last quadrant, if you will, the zodiac. Letting go of some of this stuff and saying, okay, this, you know, something's got to change here. We, strength in numbers, we emotionally, what we need and what, you know, we value is more so than this corporate America government or corporate world, you know, highways through sacred forests. All right, that's it. I don't want to beat a dead horse on that, but it's important stuff. And honestly, my friends in Australia, I hope enough money is raised and something happens to change that, because it happened here in the United States, and it was and that pipe leaked and into that sacred water, you know, and it's like we can't undo that. So I hope it gets sorted out. I have faith in humanity. We're gonna figure it out. You and me, my friends, will figure it out one day at a time. All right. I love you. I wish you enough, and we'll see you tomorrow. Happy full mooning.